Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers Robots in Disguise Warrior Class Scorponok. For the package, you got a really cool image of Scorponok on the back card, and then a really nice open clamshell that allows you to see the figure as well as his accessories. On the back of the package, you have his instructions, images of his robot as well as his Scorpion mode, the compatibility with the Minicons, and of course the information on the new Transformers Robots in Disguise game that's available on Google Play and the App Store. But for the packaging on this guide, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Scorponok opened up and out of his packaging, and I think for what it is, it's actually a pretty cool looking toy. As you can see, he's in his Scorpion mode, and there's some cool things going on with him. He's got a really cool looking tail. You can see that his actual weapon can peg in there. Kind of gives it a little bit longer of that Scorpion tail kind of look. You can remove it, and I'll show that here in a bit, but it is what it is. You got some nice color on here. You got the browns and the oranges and everything, but overall, looks-wise, I'm happy with how this guy turned out. Taking a little bit of a closer look at him in this insect mode, like I was saying, you can actually remove this. It just pegs in there. And then you have a little bit more of an accurate Scorpion kind of tail, which I do actually like a little bit more, but you do have the storage option for his little sword. For his articulation here, you can see that the lower section here is on a ball joint, so you get a nice range of motion there. You got a little hinge section right here, and then at the top section, you got another little hinge section. These little legs don't really do anything. They're all connected. I guess you could kind of say that they hinge up. That's just mostly for the transformation. And then his large clipper arms here kind of are a little bit tricky. You can see that you got the ball joint here. These will become his arms in robot mode. And then, unfortunately, it's stuck in this bend. There's no real way to kind of, because once you stretch it out, it kind of separates the little claw, the shell that goes around his actual arms. So you can't really stretch them out, but you do have that ball joint there, and then you got the swivel at this top section. It's just a little bit hard to manipulate things, and as you can see, when you try doing it, you're prone to kind of separate that. So I would probably just leave these alone, get them in the pose that you want. You can see that you can get them in kind of some cool looking poses, but you do need to be careful with it. You got some really nice kind of sparkly paint in there too. I really dig that. Then you got some nice red bits here for the eyes. You got an actual opening mouth here, which is really very cool. One thing I'm noticing though is there is no visible Decepticon logo here. You do have one in his robot mode, but it would have been nice if there was like maybe one right there or something. Now to transform them, really very simple. First you're going to take these little bits, fold those through the back just like so, come around here to the bottom, detach these legs, they kind of peg right up underneath here, and then just swivel those out just like that, getting them kind of out of the way. This entire section down here then is on a hinge. You want to pull this out just to kind of make some clearance, and then take his little Scorpion head and bring this down and tuck that in just like that. Then rotate his robot head just like so, kind of swivel it back, or swivel it out a little bit. And then this entire section you can see is on a double hinge, so you want to then hinge that forward and up just like so. That brings that entire chest piece up towards the top. You can take these legs, swivel these around, and here at the knee, fold these little feet out, rotate this around just like that, kind of stick it out to the side, do that on this side, pull his leg off, it's just a ball joint, so it's not too difficult, and then just rotate that, do that there, fold the little feet down, again, bring these little pieces here in the back. The tail, you can kind of leave it around, it depends on your personal preference. I'm just going to kind of leave it hanging up like that. The arms here, they'll get a little bit tricky to do. First, you have to separate them here, and then this whole section here is just kind of loose, and there it's, I don't know how I feel about that design. It doesn't really hurt it, but it's not all that spectacular, I guess. And then you can kind of see you got a little notch right here, and then a smaller one right underneath his armpit. You bring that up, and then you line up the little hole sections with those notches. So you bring that up and push that in just like so. You can have that, kind of creates a little bit of clearance for them, kind of just leave it there so you can get a bit more range of motion. If you didn't close this, you can then close that. So again, do that on the opposite side. You want to detach this, it'll go flopping around, rotate that around to where you get the little tabs lining up with the slots, push that in, lift that up just a little bit, rotate these arms around, kind of, I mean, you can leave those down, it's personal preference, but I like leaving them up a little bit. Gives a little bit more of a range of motion. But once you're done, kind of fiddle with his legs just a little bit to kind of get him balanced a little bit better. And then once you're done with him, there you have him in his robot mode. In robot mode, this guy actually looks really very cool. I think in terms of recreating the animation in terms of toy form, I feel they did a really good job. Now, one aspect that isn't all that accurate is the coloring on him. I don't mind this color as much, but it is definitely not the way that it appears in the movie. But the overall look for the figure is still really very nice. For his accessory, as you can see, he does come with a little sword, and obviously he can hold it despite the fact he's got really goofy looking hands. But I like the actual shape and design of this. It's very serrated, very cool, and aggressive looking. It is just molded in this kind of gray plastic, but you can see some nice sculpted detail on there. Coming in to take a closer look at the figure, as you can see, really nice detail on there. Like I said, color-wise, he's not accurate. You do also have the really goofy looking, the Decepticon logo there. That's part of the whole game thing. You scan it and you can add this character to your game. But ideally for me, I'll probably just take that off and use a repro label or something. But overall, I mean, I do kind of like the way that this guy turned out. He does have the goofy shape for the hands. That is accurate to, again, how it looks in the cartoon. You got some nice silver paint right there. They do just use the gray plastic for the thighs and then the upper part of the arms and everything. But overall, I do really like it. Now, in the package, he comes with his legs collapsed like that. But you don't really need to do that. The joints are actually fairly stiff that he does stand fairly decently. He is a little bit slippery because he's plastic and my table's plastic, but you can see he does stand fairly nicely. Those joints are really nice and tight, and I do really appreciate that. The back tail thing is still articulated, so you can kind of move that around however you want. It doesn't come up nearly as high as it did in the actual show, but it does still do a nice job of capturing that likeness. The more that I stare at that Decepticon logo, though, I'm more and more annoyed because it's crooked. But he does look really nice. Now, for his articulation, as you can see, the way the head is, you're only going to really get him kind of turning like that. He does kind of tilt forward and back like so, kind of giving him a little turn, but not a heck of a lot. You got ball jointed shoulders here. If you have these down, obviously it kind of makes it look a little bit better, but it also limits the articulation some. But if you're just going to have him in a kind of vanilla pose, that doesn't look all that bad, I don't think. But you can get a nice range of motion there. He also does rotate at a little mushroom peg here at the upper part of the bicep. He's got a hinge for his elbow, nothing at the wrist or anything, nothing at the waist. The hips here, though, are on ball joints, so you get a nice range of motion. You also have that rotation at the upper part of the thigh, and then he's got a joint here in here for the knees, so you can kind of position that however you see fit. And then I guess you could kind of say that based on the transformation, he does have a little bit of ankle articulation. Not a heck of a lot, but in general, a fairly well-articulated figure. He does balance decently, despite the fact that he does have, fairly small feet and, thin legs, and then you do have the giant tail thing here. But like I said, with the tightness of the joints and then the fact that he's got some nice heels here, he actually does get a really good balance. And then basically a deluxe scale figure. At the head you can see he's a little bit over 5 inches tall, but with his shoulder pads here he almost hits about 7 inches. Now to transform him back again, fairly simple to do. We're going to lift these front panels just like that, and then we're going to detach this whole section. We're going to then open these little claw sections, and this is a little bit tricky. You want to rotate it around and then kind of feel in there how you get the little arm tucked in. You do have to kind of keep it bent to get it to close all the way, but it's actually fairly simple, as you can see. So again, open this up, detach this, and then the little arm just kind of rests on the inside here, just like, there we go. Take this section, hinge this out, and then it shifts down. Get that tail coming down with it. Hinge that whole section down, lift the little scorpion head up. It will lock into place nicely there. Take the robot head, rotate that around, and then tuck that up right underneath like so. Take these legs, we're going to then point the toes, and then you collapse that section in like so. Then you want to hinge the ball section around, so that it can now swivel in like that, and then you got that little tab right here that's going to come up and tab into the underside right there. So again, do that on this side, hinge this up. You want to rotate that ball joint, spin this around here at the little thigh section. You got that little tab that's going to slot right in there. Bring that around, push that up, locking it into place like so. Then take these little side legs, swivel that down, bring that down, position the tail, and there you have Scorponok back in his insect mode. Overall, though, a really pretty cool toy, if you ask me. Now, truth be told, I haven't watched too much of the show. I've probably watched about 2/3 of it, and honestly, it's just not for me. But that's not to say that the toy designs aren't good. A lot of them I've actually liked. And if you remember, I reviewed several of the RID figures before, and overall, they're pretty good toys. Scorponok here is definitely one of those. I think design-wise, they did a really good job of taking that animation and converting it into an actual toy. Yes, the colors aren't exact, and that may bug some people, but I think in general, it still looks pretty good. And yes, it does have a fairly simple transformation, as a lot of the new Transformer figures do have, but I really don't think that that's a bad thing like a lot of other reviewers seem to think. They seem to lose sight of the fact that these are toys. These are meant for kids. I recognize that this toy is not geared towards collectors. So the simplified nature of the transformations really don't bother me that much. So all that being said, if Scorponok here is a figure that you'd be interested in adding to your collection, he is slowly hitting various retail locations right now. So if you're looking for him, good luck and happy hunting. Or as always, there's Big Bad Toy Store. So all you have to do for that is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to BBTS where you can check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of the Transformers Robots in Disguise figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Optibotimus. Don't forget that if you like this video, to please like and share it. Also be sure to subscribe in case you haven't already subscribed. That way you never miss a future review of mine. And as always, until next time, be excellent to each other.
You're at your best.